Members, I was proposing that we could start. Other members could join us along the way. Jesper, I don't know whether you are ready. Probably we could start.
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, we are already 21. I think let's get started as you mentioned. I'm going to share my screen. Wish Francis, you step down from sharing.
Okay, it is fine. I want to welcome all the participants. My name is Christopher Xavier. As Jesper is loading his presentation, Christopher Xavier is my name and the Deputy Coordinator of Resource Institute. I want to take this opportunity to welcome all the participants to this 33rd webinar for the Water Resource Institute, where we are talking about the integrating refugee and host community efforts in landscape restoration. And this is a participatory planning approach in the face of climate change. A lot's going to be discussed by the presenter, and we would like to give him an opportunity to share. For those where it is the first time for them to participate in these webinars, normally we host the Water Resource Institute webinars during the last Friday of the month, where we give an opportunity to the a number of people, stakeholders within the sector, to present their findings, their research, their best practices to the different stakeholders within the community, within the sector. So this time around, we have ZOA, where they want to present to us the work they have done within the refugee and host communities on issues concerning the integrated planning approach in the face of climate change. Without wasting any time, I want to introduce Jesper Okello. He's the Climate Resilient Livelihood Advisor with ZOA. He has worked with a number of organizations, both national and international organizations, where he supported on issues concerning climate change, and is going to be the presenter for today. Okello, kindly, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Jesper, you can start presenting.
Oh yeah, I was talking unmuted. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Now, I was saying that what I'm going to present is part of our work that we are doing. We are doing in a refugee and host community. And this lesson is driven from West Nile, which you know that it takes a third of the population of the refugee. That means it is a tough situation. It has working condition, but still is something is going on, which really supports livelihood, supports environment, and restore a degraded landscape. So what I'm trying to show you is what ZOA is doing in partnership with PAMCOPS, and we get our money from the Dutch organization we call the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. So before I present the detail of what I want to share, allow me to open ourselves to you. I say, who are we? We are a Dutch organization with a greater mission of providing relief and recovery to people affected by conflict and disasters. So we work across the world, and I want to see people have hope and live in a dignified and peaceful environment. So our greater niche is working in the humanitarian recovery, but now we are slowly entering into development discourse. We value people and we are faithful in our work. We are a good steward of the resources that is given to us. And as well, we are signatory to the Climate Charter, the Humanitarian Organization for Climate Charter, but also we also serve with integrity, which is also provided for in core humanitarian standards. So we have over 1,000 employees across the globe, and we are present in Nigeria, DRC, Uganda, Sudan, South Sudan, Yemen, a number of countries. We receive our funding from a number of agencies listed down here, including the Netherlands government. So we have a strategic direction. Our strategic directions anchoring on 5 major areas, which is food security and livelihoods, peace building, and peace building we anchored it on land rights, and we got to know that most of the conflicts arises from land, and therefore, if land is well managed, automatically there is going to be peace. And if land is well managed, our other water resources is going to be intact. If land is well managed, then we have coexistence. So we focus on water, sanitation and hygiene, education, and shelter. So in Uganda, we only don't have shelter because it's not that emergency. So this is anchoring on a number of intersections, the localization approach. That means we work with the local institutions, including local government, including the local NGOs and communities. We anchor our work on peace nexus and climate resilience. So this, we ensure that there is gender, there is diversity, and there is inclusion in all our work. So when we do our programming, that's our central focus. So when we focus on food security, we have to ensure that it is falling under localization, meaning the local takes precedent. We want to ensure that we do no harm, but also we are environmentally sensitive so that we have people who has hope and live in a dignified life. So that's our strategic direction. In Uganda, we have our presence in West Nile. We have our presence in northern Uganda, especially in Chole sub-region and some part of Lamo districts. Our presence are in Kiriandongo. We have presence in southwestern and western Uganda, but also southwestern. We focus in southwestern, we focus at looking at Kigezi. So and then Busoga sub-region and Eastern region. So our sectors, as I talked about before, we looked at food security, we look at peace, we look at education, and also WASH. Now, in relation to what I've just talked about, I would like to deep dive into specific concern of integrating refugees into restoration work, particularly in a displaced and host community setup in West Nile. And in West Nile, we have several projects, but I've decided to pick this. This project is funded by Aravio, it's a Dutch enterprise, and it's focusing at two districts, Madukolo and Terego. So Madukolo and Terego, they host almost half the population of the district in West Nile. So with the increasing number of the population in West Nile, you find that they have put a lot of pressure on land, water, and other resources. As when you look at it from the map, the aerial map, you begin seeing what is on the ground, the imagination, what can transpire. It is a semi-arid land, but then you find with the increasing population, a lot of pressure has been exerted on land and related resources. So this is a four-year project which started last year. Today is our second year. Actually, we have 1 year and 3 months. So it's a four-year project. That means whatever I'm presenting is the lessons learned from this project within a period of 1 year. Yeah, this is the situation, the current situation that you can see. When you look at this, this is the stream, this is a stream that recharges River Enyao. And River Enyao, you see from the map, you find the River Enyao comes from DRC, entered into Aroa, moves through Terego, and then touches Madukolo into the River Nile. So where I've highlighted, we have our presence, but our main focus has been at the downstream of River Enyao around Madukolo and Terego. So get to know that this stream passes through the urban setup where there is a lot of human activity, and you find somebody's hustling to survive as well, but also draining. This man drains water and created a channel to his pond to use it for other productive use. So that is the situation. That is, you can see. Now, the project, which is calling, we know it as DRIVE. DRIVE is developing sustainable, resilient, and inclusive local food systems in West Nile region of Uganda. This project is looking at two main key outcomes. The first outcome is increased productivity and production of smallholder farmers. And we are focusing on women and youth using climate-smart agroecological practices and sustainable land and water management. So, and this is a section for which I want to present my case anchoring on and the process towards achieving this particular outcome. We have another outcome area which looks at increased participation of smallholder farmers, including women and youth, in profitable local and regional markets. So this comes from the philosophy that when the production has increased and environment is sustained, then automatically they need a market. So here we work with private sector and also the local community organization to market whatever has been produced in a climate smart way. And you get to know that in both refugee and host community, there's literally so many enterprises, but we are focusing on cassava, which is the core and food security food crop in West Nile. We are looking at onion. We are looking at okra. We look at, I can say, vegetables and pulses to ensure that the community have food security, and the production mode has to be in a climate smart way or climate smart practices. So how are we delivering? And this is something which is core for this presentation. It is something that has created a significant progress towards us achieving our expected outcomes. We have adopted participatory integrated planning. So participatory integrated planning is an approach that was developed by Wageningen University, and it's being championed in Uganda, and in Uganda with a lot of support from the Dutch embassy. And this approach brings the community at the forefront. We ensure that we enter community through community assembly, but also we deep dive into an household to define the issues that affect him or her, and then also it bounces back to community to see what affects a household. Chances are very high that it affects the community. So we anchor on the three core principles. One is motivation. And we know that, yes, people, the refugee and the hosts are so much dependent on handouts. And therefore, we have to support them to understand, beside external support, you have the ability, you have the skill, you have the resources within your means that you can translate into a better livelihood. So we help the participants, the both refugee and the host community, to understand the issues that affect them first and the capacity they have, but also the opportunity available. So take, for instance, we want to show that, okay, somebody comes from South Sudan, he was a business person. Somebody comes from South Sudan, is a trained technician. Somebody comes from wherever, is a professional, is a farmer. So then we help the person to deep dive into himself or herself to understand the situation that affects him, by also encouraging them that by being displaced or hosting the displaced, you are not vulnerable. You have a strength to take forward. So we motivate them to appreciate who they are, and then on their own, they're able to identify the resources. They come out with they identify their problems, they identify also their own strength, and come out with their solution to solve that problem. And that means each household always have like what we call PIP plan, participatory integrated planning, where a wife and a husband sits together and plan within their means and begin acting towards that. So we also have this principle called stewardship. So you have to take charge of what is within your means, within your house, within your surrounding, and the general public. So people get motivated and they begin to appreciate. The government, yes, give a 30 meter by 30 to a displaced person, but then we say, okay, these resources, you better manage it. Using climate smart technology, you're able to produce sufficient amount of food to feed you, especially now with the reduction in food ratio. So yeah, we encourage them to cope, to adjust, to function normally, and that's what we call resilience. So we ensure that this principle is anchoring on food production, and we want to show that, yes, that we know that the challenge that there are people who were displaced and they come in and they ensure that they're not farmers. Perhaps they were pastoralists, there were livestock keepers. So, but this time now you are displaced. And also we ensure that the household also ensure that there's food production. We ensure that the land and water are managed. So that's why you find that in this illustration, we find that with this principle down, we move to house from household to community and general landscape. This community level, we encourage them to develop a community action plan, but as well as household action plan. And we motivate them to each household to implement their action plan. And community also implement the action plan. And the action plan should anchoring on food production, land, and water management. So this has been working well. In case any other person coming, it's like we are at the forefront. The community already understand and they use the resources according to the plan that has been they have supported to develop. So, and this approach anchoring on collaboration. So we do collaborate with the humanitarian agencies on the ground, the private sector on the ground, but also we ensure that there is integration on all supports into the community initiative. And by the end of the day, the community, both community and host community and the refugee are empowered. So this is a foundation of our intervention. Yes, at the moment, we are still 1 year, and so far we have progressed. And we know that when community are brought in the middle, chances are very high for to deliver a sustainable results. But this so far so good. So, and we found that we know that this foundation is a pillar to sustainable change in the refugee setup. Especially now when there is a donor cut, there's also food ratio cut, but these people are here to stay. And we know that Uganda Comprehensive Refugee Response Plan 2026, which is coming soon, is looking at self-reliance. And we are saying this is a basis approach, which is really progressing well so far. So I explained this so much into when I was explaining the first chart. What you see in the picture is a lady presenting the community action plan. So these plans, once it is developed, they have to display it, and it's championed by the community vision committee. We want always to make it as simple as possible so that you find communities are able to present to themselves, but also encourage the community to sit down and do evaluation. That's what you see at the side to evaluate how far they have gone with the plan that has been developed. So, and the approach promotes dialogue within the household as they plan together. So as it starts from a household, we want to say that the households are able to discuss, the wife, the children are able to dialogue on issues that is affecting them, on their strength, but also what they want to achieve. So you find that the community aspiration, others are wild. And you find that over time, we encourage them to say, okay, fine, it's good to think wildly, but then pick 2 or 3 that can be achieved. The farmer's household decides on what they can do, and that's what we call intrinsic motivation. So if they are motivated to begin to decide, so it's fine. I am receiving additional support from my sister, my brother from US, and this additional money, how are we going to use it to ensure that it sustains us now and tomorrow? So then we say, okay, the resources available has to be managed. And if it's managed, then we are calling it a climate resilience. So we try to use a lot of the resources within the means. And with this, we have seen social cohesion, the different people from different backgrounds collaborating and also exchanging ideas and agreeing on issues that affect them. Yeah, this approach has worked in many countries. We implemented in Burundi, we implemented in Syria, and now we are implementing in Uganda, South Sudan, and it is very effective approach to ensure a sustainable livelihood, a sustainable environment, and building a resilience of ecosystems and social resilience. So far in this 1 year, we have 80 acres restored through agroforestry, soil conservation, and reforestation. So what you see is community preparing a nursery. So you will see that the community are engaged and motivated. All other things, what you see the picture down is community digging a water reserve so that no water is a waste. The water is reserved and also used in the garden and then also protected. So there has already been increased awareness of soil and water conservation management. Yeah, with this, we have developed 8 action plans so far, but our target is that by 2026, end of 2026, we would develop another 86 because our whole target is 111 community action plan being developed and implemented. So far, we have really developed 8 action plans, which is being implemented by the community. And we have reached to over 2,000 households. And these 2,000 households, each of them have the household action plans. But our focus is we want to reach 12,000. One interesting thing which I want to tell you is that the approach cascades. So now, like we started with a smaller number. We started with 200 households. The 200 households were able to cascade the training to 2,000, but of course others dropped out. We are very cognizant that if each household, each trainer, we call them PIs, PIP innovators. So these innovators, we also aware that others drop out, but others continue. So we started with 200, only 2 dropped out. So the 2 that dropped out gave us the provision for other 198 to multiply, to cascade, to each of them 10. And that's why I'm saying so far we have reached these 2,100 plus households. And we are going to graduate them. And this 2,000 plus will also cascade to, and we assume that if they're cascading, at least 70% of them will reach out to 10 households, on assumption that the 30% might drop. But our focus right now is to strengthen the 2,000 that we have so far attained. And we want them to move on and multiply and reach the targeted household. So we have already restored the micro-catchment areas, and these micro-catchment areas is anchoring on these 3 mid-8 action plans. So this process, of course, the micro-catchment health is gradual, but we're very sure that with a second season, the first season of next year, you will see the visible part that has been restored. So we already have like a sustainable land use with this number of the household that we have reached with the tool. So what are the lessons learned in this so far? One, embedding micro-catchment management within the participatory tool enhances ownership, but also accountability. I showed you a picture whereby the community leaders always, we call them the CVC, the Community Vision Committee, sits down to discuss how far they've gone. So when they when they package it and develop a plan which is on, then it enhances ownership. They have even time to discuss what have we done? We're supposed to do it. What has gone wrong? What can we do? So we set up a demonstration plot to show cases, but then we are saying the lessons is that when farmer-led demonstration plot encourage peer learning. Yeah, we are very few. We have very few staff. We have literally 4 staffs. These 4 staffs cannot reach to over 2,000, but the PIs that started and the replication is going on. But of course, with the technical support from the district, and Abisari has worked for us. So we are reaching out, and demonstration plot has been established. So far, we have 200 demonstration plots, but we plan to have 1,400 demonstration plots to facilitate effective learning, but also to promote adoption of different practices. The communities have now become the co-drivers of resilience rather than being passive beneficiaries. Yeah, unlike we would just give to the displaced, but then they have to work for it and ensure that there is success in what we are doing or what they are doing. So we have targeted engagement of youth and women, especially in CSA and environmental management, increases participation. Yeah, there's a tendency of young people be available, but also women be available, men looking for money. But we're saying when you do a targetful intervention, chances are very high that you increase the management of the resources available, but also increase equity and diversity in the intervention. Considering that this is a complex situation that brings the people from Congo, people from South Sudan, people from Sudan, and also some others from Ethiopia in the same location. So then the approach would better be to target the most active and people available. So youth-led demonstration farms promoted innovations and uptake of CSA. Yeah, you think about any agroecological or climate smart practices, and you find that where youth are, and you find this, okay, when you're making a cover, mulching to conserve soil nutrient, they derive a lot of skill and innovation to ensure that these practices works. Sometimes, just like you saw from the picture at the start, you find the land is equally bare. So have to innovate to ensure that there's moisture retention in soil. So say multi-stakeholder partnership, for instance, with Abizadi, we work with Abizadi. Abizadi is Zonal Agricultural Research and Development Institute of Naro. And in West Nile, it's Abizadi. So we work with them to offer technical services, technical support. We work with the district local government to support trainings of the farmers, both refugee and host community, but as well using the local structure. to do the backstopping. This has helped a lot in enhancing the work we are doing. And we are confident that before we know it, we would have hit the target. Yeah, the community-led catchment restoration and answer ecosystem resilience. Yeah, because of the community action plan developed, yeah, you define themselves, the ecosystems are gaining their own self. The landscape is gaining its own health, but also water improving its quality, but also availability. And of course, when there is water, there is adaptiveness of livelihood. So we see this working and we continue strengthening the very community-led. So far we have 8, and these 8 other you find that this management of the landscape, management of roads, management of water source, water point. Also you find management of the river banks. So all this creates resilience building. What's the takeaway from this? One, the landscape restoration works best when it is locally driven, when it is inclusive and is linked to livelihood. Yeah, it's not possible that you're going to restore a degraded river and you're not linking it to livelihood. Not until you do that, then automatically becomes easier. If you don't, chances are very high that the community will not restore that degraded land. So now, with the integration of the climate smart practice, it is working well. And also we have shown them that whatever production that they will make, there's market linkage created. Remember I said there is market linkage as an output and outcome area, but also production as another outcome area. So the restoration works where there is a link between production, but also link with the market. So this requires, one takeaway is that it requires flexible funding and adaptive management. So we see it is very essential that the funding scheme should be very flexible, especially in such a setting which has a comprehensive environment, but also a multi tribes, people with different interests. So it is suitable for donor. Has somebody spoken? So it's good for money or fund which are flexible, but also people implementing has to be adaptive. Should be flexible to adjust at all time. So one other takeaway is investing in data and monitoring of community-led. So for us to get this means we have to give a lot of our time on the data, monitoring the community works, but also ensuring that when we do that, we strengthen accountability and learning. So remember I said that each household has a plan and each community also has a plan. We have an intersection point that they come to give a report on what is working and what's not working. How can they be strengthened? And our last takeaway is strengthening linkages between humanitarian and development work, development actors, ensure sustainability in refugee host areas. So this approach, just like you show in the illustration, we talked about coordination, we talked about integration, and by the end of this all, we have a strengthened system that enhances livelihood, but also improve the well-being of both the hosts and the refugee. Thank you for listening. So Xavier, over to you. Am I hearing anybody? Hello? Moses, can you hear me? I can't hear anyone.
Hello. We can hear you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I can as well hear. So this is the end of my presentation. I welcome any questions, something I want clarification. I'm happy as well. I can step down from the presentation. So any question? Supplement?
Yes, good morning. This is Jennifer, and yeah, I'm a student from Makerere University. And thank you for that presentation. My question is concerning the photos that you shared on how you train the community on conserving water. So in the photo you shared, I could see those, could I call them like reservoirs in the ground, but I didn't see the lining in these reservoirs. So I'm wondering, bearing in mind that you earlier mentioned that this area is a semi-arid area, so I expect it to be having some like a climate where it's hot and you expect high evaporation losses of water. Then since the reservoirs are not lined, I'd also expect water to be lost through infiltration into the deeper layers of the soil. So how do you help these people retain water in these reservoirs if there is no lining? Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Can I take take a couple of them? Maybe like two more. Then I respond to
Hi,
Jennifer. Thank you.
hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Manda Albert. I work for Dance Refugee Council, and I'm very happy about the presentation and the working with the refugees and the host community. I wanted to understand, how do you ensure land access to the refugees, because the refugees have been given piece of land that are small, and we are talking about restoration that takes time, and tree planting that sometime when they grow, the trees will take up the space. How do you ensure access to land by the refugees? Over.
How do I ensure access of land by refugees? Okay. Okay. Maybe next.
Yes, good morning.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Jasper, for this wonderful presentation. and for letting us know the different activities that ZOA is actually doing in West Nile, and particularly the Enyao catchment. This work is quite impressive in the sense that as Ministry of Water, we are implementing catchment-based water resource management and using the integrated approach of getting stakeholders to be part of the planning process. And I found it very, very similar to the community integrated planning, an approach being utilized in Enyao. The ministry perspective looks at planning at a catchment level, planning at a micro catchment level, and through that participatory approach, you come up with your strategic objective as a micro catchment, but of course being supported by a lean setting of the committee. We call them the micro catchment management committee to oversee the implementation of what they have planned. So my kind of concern could be, how do you interact with these levels in terms of planning for the community, so that whatever is being done at the community level tends to feed into what a micro catchment plan actually has for those specific areas that you're working with. The second bit is we're doing the restoration to, in a way, provide for water security. And in this case, we're looking at making the water available in enough quantity, but also to make it sustainable, that the enough quantity can take us a longer time. How do we set up mechanism that you can follow up on understanding how this impact actually is contributing to this water availability in enough quantity? And how do we make sure community appreciates the need to maintain or sustain this availability for their longer use, for example, during drought season, where we expect probably a limited flow within those river system. And last bit is probably having your program interacting with a bigger program of other stakeholders. For example, we're doing the restoration. You mentioned some good 180 hectares of land surface restored. And this huge area, how do we link such output to what other organization within the same microcatchment is doing, so that we have that cumulative impact that we could see within the entire microcatchment, to which we can feed into the reporting maybe at a district level or a catchment management level. So those are the three areas that we'll look at. Maybe the last bit is to advance the need to collaborate. Maybe this program, now that you've presented this, I find it is quite enriching in terms of forging collaboration with Ministry of Water and Environment, so that you're able to move together within this catchment and achieve quite more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me first take these three, and then we can take more. Yeah, Jennifer, how are we ensuring that this water is not lost? What is so as a pond without the lineage? Yeah, Jennifer, I do recognize your concern. I know there is leakage, there is no evaporation that takes place, but the water is always needed to the household and the community. Yeah, at the moment we are not creating the lineup, but we want to ensure that the community uses resources available. We don't want to come in our support and say, this is likely to happen. But what we bring it clearly is that the water gets lost in terms of leaching, and also in terms of evaporation. And we also encourage them to ensure that the water that they have stored, it's helpful. So now, look, in this particular one, we are using it water for agriculture. And there are so many climate smart or agroecological practices that can allow water to percolate within the farm field. And what to do when it goes to the farm field, we want to ensure that the ZOA pit is created, others call it swells, so that the water retains in the farm field and remain more moisture, the field remain more moistures. And others go further and do the mulching of the farm field to ensure that the farm field remain more moisture. This is also linked to Pascal question of water availability. Yeah, we know, just like we want them to have, we want to see water available for production. We want to see them growing food throughout, year in and year out. But in one of our projects, we are one of other project which is supplementing this particular project. We are introducing the pond and also micro irrigation to ensure that the water is used well for production, but not encroaching the streams, not encroaching the wetland. So that's what we plan to undertake. And it's the project, we are still on the process, having dialogue farmers, dialoguing with the private sector and seeing what is working and what does not work. So Monday, tree planting and land access. One thing is that we know by policy, the refugees are not supposed to acquire land, but they have access to a portion of 30 by 30 given by government, but also they have opportunity to lease the land. We have a project which is for land rights, and the land rights component supports the DRIVE project by organizing a dialogue between the host community land owners and also, okay, the better word would be, we always use the tenancy agreement that has been organized by another project of ZOA and in partnership with OPM. And this tenancy agreement, the landlords and refugees sits down to agree on what, how and for how long the land is going to be used. Yeah, like for instance, we have another project altogether in the same location, which is oyster nuts. The oyster nuts, the vine, and this vine grows well in a tree. So if the refugee plants it, that means it's a perennial. It takes 1 to 2 years before harvesting. So if 1 to 2 years before harvesting means that's a longer period of time. Such actions, we have a clear tenancy agreement between the landlords and the refugee. So it's the same model that's running, and especially those who are involved in the production of oyster nuts. So, of course, this one does not require planting of trees. It requires a really grown-up tree. However, in agroforestry practices, we look at fruits, the fast maturing fruits like pawpaw. So this is one of the things that they plant in that small space, and of course, it can be sold, but also provides nutrition. So this is also provided for in the tenancy agreement we have with the farmers. Back to Pascal again. Pascal, yes, I do understand the operational structure of catchment management approach. Actually, this approach when Uganda first adopted was in 2010, 2011. So, and the only thing which we have to do, just like you said, we need to look for how can we build synergy and also work together. If we are going to have 111 community plans, how are this plan going to be sustained when the project ends? And yet the ministry continue to exist, the district local government continue to exist. At the moment, we are in the process of establishing a formal relationship with the Ministry of Water and Environment, and already have a formal relationship with the district local governments and as well as the OPM. So this, and you know that the catchment water is not administrative bound. It is cross-cutting. So this is something which I think is very good, that we establish a cordial relationship and also champion coordination and collaboration to ensure there is water available for now and for future, and also the catchment remains intact. Maybe I can take some others.
Thank you, Jasper, for the presentation. I received a number of comments from but before I come in, probably we could have comments from, we have some questions from, let us start with Alex. Alex, please come in.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, please.
Yeah, my name is Alex Soloya. I work for CARE and doing also restoration project in Southwest. I just want to talk about restoring degraded land, of course, through tree planting. In my understanding of this, tree permanence is important. I don't know after how long the farmers are at liberty to cut the trees, but then that is, of course, you cannot dictate. That could probably come through the trainings and through community engagement to inform them that if effective land restoration should take place, then the trees need to stay on the ground for this, on the land for a particular number of years. And then secondly, you talk about agroforestry. I don't know how, do you involve the farmers to select what type of agroforestry practices they would want to have on their land? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Alex. We could have a question from Susan Akamprida. Susan, please come in.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It was really good, and the project really seems to be very, very good for the community, and is basically community run, which is a plus. I just wanted to know, you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that the river that the catchment you're trying to restore around, the river flows from Congo. And you know, with the transboundary water sources such as that area you're talking about, sometimes when you're restoring your side of the catchment, the other side where the river is coming from, they are also destroying or something, and it all ends up on this side of your restored catchment. So I wanted to know, how are you taking into account those transboundary issues, given that this river comes from a different country? How are you handling transboundary issues? And then also, my other query was about the color of the river. As you're saying, you're restoring, but I wanted to know, what measures are you putting into place to make sure that that river regains the color of water as we know it, because it looks so muddy, and definitely that's not how water is supposed to look like. So how are what apart from tree planting, what other measures are you putting in place to make sure that the water itself is taken care of, to avoid all those that kind of filth that you see floating within the river? Thank you. I submit.
Deliver value. You cannot have something that people will attend every year if they are not seeing value. And so far, well,
Let me display what I was talking about again. This map.
Okay, so if anybody wants to comment on what I've talked about.
Yeah, I wish somebody could unmute. Yeah, Susan, this is the map you're talking about, and this is the color. Just like I said, this is the water comes from Congo and runs through and comes to the main river Nile. But our operations is this yellowish. And our presence for this particular project is Terego and Madukolo. So meaning it is only this area in Terego, the areas where water passes that we at the downstream, and this we are touching the other part. Yes, I'm also cognizant that the water is a transboundary. But I want to say at the moment, we are not having a transboundary issue, but our transboundary issue is anchoring on the district level at micro catchment level. And the color of the water, if we think that since the committee already have identified actions and they develop a community action plan and they have community leadership with the protection of the buffers and also practicing of climate smart practices that we are training them, automatically come in next season, when the next season of rain, the water color will change. You also note that the water color is not changing because of any other turbidity matter. This water is fresh, but because of the soil that is being loosened, let me use that word, and erosion sweeps that water, that soil into the water. So that's what causing that high level of turbidity and changing the color. So with the plants so far on the ground, I'm sure the very water spots, if you look at it, you find even the banana is planted just at the river. So now with this plan, chances are very high that, and of course, according to the plan, this community will move out from the buffers so that the vegetation that filters water grows. This usually takes a shorter time for you to gain the original color. Alex, yes, the approach is participatory. The approach, we don't define what actions they want to take, but we show them, if you do this, what happens. So the kind of agroforestry that the enterprise they take, it is household choices. It is household plan and based on household aspiration. So we always encourage them to have a vision and plan of 3 years, but with a detailed plan of 1 year. How are you going to get there? So we always encourage them to take a practice agroforestry, especially looking at the fruit trees first as a nutrition. Those ones that can mature quickly, and since some of them are displaced already, and some of them are host community. But you find the host community preferring the long-term trees, and which is okay, which is equally okay, because they are going to be there. But the short-term tree species, which is fruit, they know this refugee takes them most. So other agroforestry trees, we always encourage species like Alejandra, and of course, it's going to improve soil health. So that's only what I can say. But all these plans, we don't dictate, we facilitate them. And they are implementing them in bits. So we want to see after second year what has worked. When I'm coming back in second year, I will show you again another case. Maybe not the picture you are seeing. I'll be showing you maybe the trees that have been moved to another height, or the family that has been experiencing change. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jesper. Maybe you could have another round of questions from, let us start with Wanga Benjamin. Wanga, you can come in. As Wanga is coming in, Jesper, you have some questions from in the chat.
In the chat?
Yes. The first question was asking, this was from Mande Albert, was asking, how do you ensure access to tree seedlings by project participants during and after the project? How do you ensure that there is continuity? He's trying to talk about how something to do with mentorship within the project for the participants. Then for sustainability purposes, after the 4 years, how do you also try to ensure that after the completion of the project, continuity of the project, how do you manage that? Then also there is a question from Ocho Dansan. Yeah, he's saying he's from Workers Association of Uganda. These are one of our partners when it comes to the Uganda Environment Week. They do a lot of sensitization issues concerning water, environment, climate change. He's asking, there was a walk in 2019 to Adjumani district. And Adjumani is one of the host districts for the refugees in West Nile. They witnessed advanced water challenges as a result of displaced people overpowering the water resources in the area. He's saying the place will be a disaster in the coming 20 years onwards. So as part of the project or as part of the organization, do you have plans beyond this to handle hydrological cycle within the area? And also he's asking, do you believe that resources within the region will be able to support the influx of the refugees within the next 20 years? Thank you.
Good. Just a quick one on the seedlings. Yeah, when we started, we procured some seedlings and gave to some community in their plan, but we realized that's not a good practice. So the practice now is like supporting them to manage the seedlings within the reach, and also do the transplantation. We are doing together with the district local government, but with a technical lead from Abizadi. Yes, the sustainability of Danson, one thing which I need to bring is that the agroecological practice is purely a conservation practice. And our project is looking at promoting the productivity, but also we are very cognizant that we need to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. So we think if all the area is saturated, unfortunately, we're not working in Adjumani, but then Adjumani falls on the eastern side of our location. So we think, and actually the hydrological reactions will change with the increasing practice of agroecological practices. Take, for instance, soil and water conservation, integrated pest management, planting of pits, but also planting of trees. If the targeted population of 12,000 households is effectively reached and they're doing the conservation work, then I don't believe that we shall lack water in the next 20 years. Because all of them would be practicing an environmentally sensitive focus. So we have another tool which helps us to monitor what we call environmental stewardship. So the tool helps us to monitor our work. It measures the biophysical reactions of the activity being implemented so that it directs us to reorganize again what can we do better without causing harm on nature. So it helps us to monitor even soil, air, and water quality. So this tool is equally participatory. So by the time the community begin implementing the plan, and this is what we are going to start with. So far, we have not done we have not evaluated the implementation of these plans with the tool, but we are planning to have like biannual evaluation of the implementation plan with the similar tool, with the same tool, to measure progress, but also to ensure that there is environmental safety. So as ZOA, we are environmentally sensitive. And even our operations, we ensure that what we're doing does not contribute to high level of emission. So therefore, the hydrological cycle is affected by the level of degradation, but also by level of human actions. In this case, we are turning around the practices now to be environmentally sensitive. Thank you. Somebody said, I am Mariba Simon. I suggest that we need to collaborate for establishment of dams to improve water for farming in some of these areas. Yeah, we need to collaborate. We can't work alone. We can't work alone. And the number of communities, if we are targeting only 12,000 households, both host and refugee, that means we're still left with over 80,000 households in Terego and Madokolo. What about Ajumani? What about Ogongi? So one person alone cannot achieve much. So we welcome collaborations, we welcome partnership, we welcome cross-learning as well to ensure we move our participants to another level. NEMA implemented a similar project for Nyao catchment area. How is ZOA leveraging on this and how is collaborating with NEMA? Yeah, yes, we learned of this, and I want to be honest that yes, we try to establish looking for exactly the sites, the plan that they developed, but we noticed that those plans, the implementation were not in our project location. But still, whether they are implementing from upstream or midstream or wherever at downstream that we don't know, we still want to establish that partnership with everyone in the area so that our community action plan is integrated into the bigger picture of what the agency like NEMA is doing.
Yes, Jesper, we had there was a hand there was a hand by I think he has left. I'm not seeing him within the participants. I'm not seeing him within the participants, but there were some questions that had been raised within the engagement with the participants. So there was a question on the issue of the refugees and also the host communities. Normally, there is a conflict when it comes to resources. We know very well that the resources are scarce. So as part of the project, how are you trying to manage the scarcity of the resources vis-a-vis the host communities and also the refugees? Then secondly, on the issue of refugees, normally there is an issue which comes in automatically, the issue of energy, where the resources, environmental resources, especially the trees, are cut because of the fuel. The trees are cut. So as the project for sustainability, how are you trying to manage this? There's a nexus between water, environment, and energy, and also food. So how are you trying to bring in this issue? Then also there was an issue that was raised. You talked about you interact so much with the private sector. How is this initiative where you interact with the private sector in a local setting? How are you trying to, maybe you could expound more on this, how you work with the private sector, how you integrate the private sector within the work you are doing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. The conflict, yes, we always know most of the conflict in refugee and host community is conflict over resource use. And in our strategic direction, I indicated to you that peace nexus is critical in our operation with the principle of do no harm. And the tool itself really has been a vehicle of facilitating cohesion. So the plans that has been developed, the household plan and also the community plan, is anchoring on dialogue. Household dialogue, a wife, husband, and children speaking on the issues that are affecting them, both at the refugee and the community and the host community. And then at the community level, we also facilitate dialogue within people who are within the range. People have access to that. So when it comes to the conflict over land, we, together with the OPM, we drafted the land use, the tenancy agreement, which was approved by OPM. And now this thing has sorted out the conflict over land. And this does not completely get rid of the other conflicts around water source. It's always there. That one is unavoidable. And there are already structures that we create the linkage, the coordination. The tool advocates so much coordination and collaboration and integration. So it has tried to manage the conflict. And this does not withstand other conflict. Even within refugee themselves, refugee to refugee, there are always conflicts. Harmonizing the energy, environment, and water. Our project is very flexible. And we have not yet identified energy in among the households and even in the community actions as a critical issue, especially when it comes to energy. But we also very cognizant that these people need food, and this food comes from water. Comes from energy, and energy is either charcoal or firewood. So where we have reached, I don't want to say that we have built the nexus, but we have shown them how best they can work and come up with a clear plan that does not interfere with the environment. I'm very sure along the way, we shall discover open needs about energy. Since we are the first year, If it comes along our way, we are very flexible to ensure that, okay, let's bring in the energy. However, there are partners who are implementing energy. We encourage collaboration, and they have not yet brought to us as a bigger niche. But also we have it at the back of our mind. Now, private sector led. This is one of our major outcome area. So we have identified local private sector in the region, the off-takers, the import dealers, and then also financial institutions. And what we have done is that these input dealers, they have varieties of inputs. Others are seed, others farm tools like hoes, pangas, others are fertilizers, others, so many input dealers. We also identified the financial institutions and all these private sector actors. We have gone a step to sign an MOU with them to ensure that the work does not exploit the host community and the refugee. So for those financial institutions, we engage, Post Bank has now changed, and its name, I'm forgetting the name, and First Bank is available. They're entitled, our relationship with them is about issuing credits to private sector actors who want money to buy inputs from, grains from the producers. So while the input dealers and off-takers, we have an agreement with them, and we want to give some money to some. Actually, we already given some money to some 25 private sector actors to buy goods at a fair rate from the farmer, so that the farmers are not exploited, but also they continue running business in that area. We train the private sector. We build coordination and collaboration between them, and also we ensure that the private sector actors grow. Why did we do this? UNHCR and OPM issued a lot of billion in 1 year in the area to supply goods and services in the refugee. This money ended up elsewhere. So now, if we increase the production of, say, maize, we should have the market locally there. We still want the money to circulate there, not going out of the region. If they grow maize or they grow cassava, they should be having ready markets. But also this market should remain there. If they want to process, they will have a processing point so that the money can stay there for one time, for at least some time, other than going out. So we got to know, all the study indicated that most of the produce eaten, most of the food eaten in the project location is imported from other districts. Even though they are given money, the money ends up in another district. Because when you buy food for 100,000, you're a refugee, you cannot eat it for 3 months at all, even 1 month, depending on the population. So we continue working with the private sector, building the capacity, creating dialogue between the farm producers and also the private sector actors. While also we encourage bilateral discussion between farmer and a private sector actor. We also, if a private sector actor want to work with the financial institutions, they are free to do the dialoguing and agree on some rates. What we do, we avoid exploitation, but we mediate. That is how we are working with the private sector actor. And our partner PAMCO is doing this and ensuring it's working. We have another component which we're working with the private sector on oyster nuts I talked about. This is fiber foods. The fiber foods is, as we support the farmers to manage oyster nuts, the fiber foods of take this oyster nut, processes it, and export it. So exports in terms of oil for cosmetic, and also for foods. So this is working. It is and this particular action is funded by DANIDA. We call DANIDA Green Business Partnership. So it is that partnership is involved exportation, while the others we involve marketing, processing, and distributing of foods within the region. Somebody say, hi Jasper, Ronald here. Thank you so much for letting us know what ZOA is doing to mitigate the harsh impact of climate in the region, especially refugee. The question is, I would recommend that as we are doing our intervention in curbing the increasing stress to our environment through human activities, especially with the refugee, confined within a small piece of land, is there any plan for ZOA to roll out alternative energy source? Oh, alternative energy source, I touched it. All our intervention is anchoring on community and household plans. So at the moment, we are not yet looking at energy, but we also know there are partners who are dealing with energy. I'm not sure how many years ZOA has been implementing this interesting project. I wanted to inquire if at all, any could you please share with us what worked and what hasn't worked so that we could have learned points. This because of an organization that is implementing resilience project in West Nile. What worked and what has not worked? Yeah, at the moment I can say there is nothing that has failed because we are at the initial stage, but I want to say that the challenges are there. The challenges come with the one, people have been so much oriented to handouts. And we are saying, this is not handouts. You have to produce food. You have to protect nature. Because like you're not going away, and the food ratio is gone actually. So how are you going to survive? So it is actually very difficult. The challenge, it has been so difficult, not until we had to reinforce this mindset with a lot of awareness, with a lot of meetings, and also following on. So we ensure that the targeted households are met so regularly to remind them on what they were discussing in the household and the plan they want to take forward. So we always get to them, and we shall continue strengthening them. And remember, we still have only 2,000 households we have reached. We want to reach 12,000 households, actually over 12,000 households. So it means it's a process. So the process of mentorship, also following up with the household, following up with the community groups, following up with the community leadership. So it's still working on well. Yeah, there's something that came out so strongly was the issue of land, which eventually we mitigated it by developing a tenancy agreement. And also, we have another sister project, which purely handle land rights. So this land rights supports, supplements the DRIVE project in case there's conflict. It comes in to support, mediate, and facilitate dialogue between the affected participants. Yeah, I don't know whether there's a question which I have not answered.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
Benjamin.
Hello.
Yes,
Benjamin, yes.
Yes. This is Benjamin Wanga from Chonga Water Management Zone under the Ministry of Water and Environment. I'm sorry, my voice is a bit harsh. I had a few issues or areas that I wanted clarification. Okay, one, I want to thank Jasper for presenting that, but also for sharing with us those good insights into what the ZOA is doing. I wanted to just get some clarification, especially when you talked of the 108 hectares that have been restored. This is good. However, maybe I would want to understand if, restoration is actually bringing back something that was previously down the circle. Okay, maybe, for example, an area that was entirely degraded, then you bring it back. Maybe I would like to understand if they have actually within the 1 year, if they have been actually able to actually say that they have restored. That is one. And then of course, still around the 108 hectares, what was the baseline situation when you came? What did you find? How much area did you earmark or map as degraded hotspots? And what was your target? What did you target to actually start restoring? And basically in terms of the area or in terms of hectares. And then also I wanted to understand now that you, of course, you've been doing the restoration, how have you been, or what tools have you been using or strategies to try to understand or to monitor the area that has been actually, that is rejuvenating or regenerating in terms of the trees that I'll be planting? What kind of tools are you using to map the area for you to actually come up with this acreage? And then also, when I looked at the first photos, I liked them, of course, trying to show the baseline situation in terms of any pictorial terms. I wanted to understand if maybe those specific areas that you are trying to show are the ones that you have restored. Basically, photos trying to depict that this is where we are now. That's something that I wanted to, that I would be comfortable hearing from you. Otherwise, thanks for the presentation. I submit.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. And yes, I hear you. Yeah, one thing is that the picture that I showed, first of all, it shows you the aerial map. And this aerial map, really, when you get it, it is actually, that is how it is. And now what tool, okay, how did you get to 150? Yeah, our major prime tool is Participatory Integrated Planning tool. So that is our major approach, and that is our major tool. You want somebody to understand the issues that affect him or herself, get motivated to work on it, and come out appropriately with a solution. The solution is not from Jasper, it's not from the project team. The solution is from the affected person. I only did not show you there are actions that communities, they don't have access to roads. They just went and started digging the road to create connections from one village to the other. So we only had to come in and facilitate. We say, okay, engineer, please go and help them to determine. So like the restoration of land, what we do, one, farmland had been so much degraded to the extent that the yield has gone so low. Now, with our intervention, we acquired the soil testing machine to determine the level of nutrients. The finding indicated that the community had acid over acid, lime over lime, or excess acid when it's not needed. So now we had to engage them in making manure, organic, and use it in those lands. And those areas that, in these 2 seasons that we have dealt with them, the variation is already in the nature of the plants that has grown, the nature of the nature of the land itself has changed in only 2 planting seasons. And those ones that were already being encroached, you find the grasses are naturally generated. So this, somebody can testify to you, not me, and it is working well. So only what we want to see by end of this all, if the community has restored their land, each household, somebody restored 1 acre, somebody has restored 2 acres, and the plants have started doing well. The area that has been allowed naturally to regenerate, it's doing well. So that's how we account it. And they're able to give us a correct measure. That my garden is a 50 by 50, a 60 by 60, or 100 by 150, and now you can see it. And this is the changes which we still want to experience. We want to see it happening. The 180 is not our target. Our target is 3,220 hectares by end of the project. So, and we feel we have moved very slowly. If 1 year, but we are not regretting, because this 1 year was testing and also learning, replanning, reorganizing. So now, at this 2nd year, we are good to go. And we are very sure that before the end of the year, if we have already, before the end of 2nd year, now we already have over 2,000 beneficiaries. The chances are very high that we are going to hit the target of 3,000 hectares restored. And before we know it, I'm also very sure that before the end of the year, all those rivers that were and it falls within the area of the plan, the water is likely to be clean. Because the soil has gained its strength, the level of erosivity has gone low because of the actions. People are digging trenches to control runoff in their field. People are planting trees, people are planting seeds in order so that it is not haphazardly done. So in this, we think when I come back to you in next year, you will see a live picture from these very spots. And we also think by that time you would have saturated to over 10,000 households. I'm not sure whether I've answered you. Yeah, we continue mapping. We are continue mapping our areas. And we plan to do we want to map all our areas using ArcGIS in the next year. We want to spot all those sites that we have already worked on, and we can visually have a look at it in next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jasper. I'm just wondering whether we have any other question. Anyone with a question, feel free to raise your hand. Yes, George, you can ask your question.
Yes, thank you so much, Francis. This is George. I'm not raising a question. Yeah, this is George from ZOA. I just wanted to add on one additional response to what Jasper said to Benjamin's question. Yeah, I'm the project manager for the Drive project. Just only what Benjamin requested on what tools do we use or what approaches do we use to identify the hotspot areas of the degraded lands. In the paper approach, there's one tool that is the community have the participatory identify the problems of the community, like especially the catchment areas, and then they use a transect walk to identify the hotspot areas of that particular catchment area. So if it is maybe degradation, maybe if it is cutting of trees, then they respond to that problem basing on the nature. So, for example, if it is maybe the land has been what over cultivated, or the trees have been overcut, and then they respond to us establishing nursery and then replanting or afforesting the land. Then maybe if it is, as just said, if it is maybe leaching maybe wetland, and then they see how they can wetland encroachment, how what actions they can do in order to minimize the degradation of the waterland. So those are basically the kind of tools we use, and as Jasper clearly put, they are community led, and they manage them using the local resources they have available at micro level. But of course, as also Francis said, the bigger collaborations with the ministry and so on will be very good to see if such small actions of community can be sustained and then also scale up at a bigger level. That's a brief response I wanted to make. Otherwise, thank you so much, Jasper, for the presentation, and colleagues for your questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, George, for this. I think now it puts it more clearer. Yeah, George's on ground best is in Arua, and I sit in Kampala, but frequently in the field. So, Francis, I think because of time, can we end at this so that I may invite my country director maybe to say hi to the team and
Yes,
Excuse
but
me.
that is perfect, I think, to me.
Oh,
I
please,
think
before, just one
Jennifer,
question.
Jennifer, you can come in.
Yeah, I wanted to know, did he mention the kind of tree species that they usually grow in the agroforestry or the restoration? I just need to know that.
George, do you want to respond to this?
Yes, I can respond. Just like Jasper mentioned before, it depends on the nature of the land, and then also the nature of the soil, because the region supports particular tree species. And when you look at West Nile, it has 3 levels of ecological zone. We have the highland, the mid temperature, and then the low temperature, which is the warmer one. So it's depending on those zones where the available tree species that are grown are identified. And then of course, in terms of the agroforestry, you look at the tree species that can grow together with the crops. As Jasper mentioned, we have the fruits, and then also we have the calendar species, and then other fast-growing species that they can always incorporate at their plot level or at their field level. But when it comes to a degraded land, because if you see it's a land that has been over degraded, we also have the pure stand species, especially the teak, the eucalyptus, that can be used to degrade a particular area. So it is a context-based, and particularly to fit the kind of degradation actions that needs to be restored. That's the brief I can respond for now, and we do that with the help of of course, the district and then also the district environment and also the forestry department to see which are the recommended species we can use in a particular kind of location. Thank you.
Yeah, Jen, yeah, the common one is Calandra and Albizia. But then there are also a lot of varieties. We have like fruit trees, so many that we are trying to promote. Especially the nitrogen fixing trees.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening to us. But also, we also learned from you. Much as it appeared like a question only, but it has been a good learning. I'm not sure whether my country director is still online. John, would you mind to say
Yes.
hi?
Yes, hello, Jasper. I'm online. Please confirm if I'm audible.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Panga. I'm the country director for ZOA Uganda. First of all, let me extend my thanks to the chair and to the ministry for giving us this opportunity and space in this webinar. It is very important for us to reach out to like-minded institutions and partners that we work with. So thank you very much for this time and space. I hope this content of the webinar was beneficial for all of us. And we look forward to work for the communities within the areas where we serve in Uganda. So yeah, I hope we were able to respond to your questions, but we also encourage you to reach us if you have any particular questions also in future. ZOA is doing a great work, and it is accountable, and it is also available to answer on all your questions and also for any kind of collaborations. I think with those words, I'd also like to thank Jasper for his efforts to putting this presentation together. Great job, Jasper. Thank you so much. And thank you all.
Thank you. Yeah, over to you, Xavier.
Thank you very much, Jasper. I want to take this opportunity to thank ZOA for the presentation. And on the other hand, I want also to thank Jasper and also John for the presentation and also for the remarks, respectively. For those who are attending this webinar for the first time, normally the Water Resource Institute provides this opportunity, provides a platform where we could interact as stakeholders within the same fraternity of water and environment. So whoever wants to share anything concerning the work they are doing, the best experiences, we provide this opportunity. So you just feel free to reach out to us. Lastly, I want to thank the participants. What you are doing is, we appreciate, it is marvelous. We appreciate your presence. We appreciate the time you give us to listen in and also to present, to make comments and also to be part of the community. What we are doing, we are looking at how do we enhance knowledge and capacity to the stakeholders within our communities, within our sector. So I want to leave at this. It is exactly 1 p.m. We want to close the webinar. We will be meeting again next month. We'll be meeting again next month on the 28th. It's going to be a Friday, where again, we'll be trying to discuss on how we can try to enrich the knowledge and best practices within the sector of water and environment. Thank you very much. Have a nice Friday and also a nice weekend.